Hello, and welcome to the Physical Therapy Owners Club podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Shields, and today I'm bringing back Eric Miller because we are all worried about money right now. In the middle of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, and I don't know a single owner that hasn't significantly slowed down or shut their doors altogether. And so, of course, the concern immediately goes to not only your employees, but also your money and your financials, and if you're going to be able to stay afloat when this thing does kick back around. So, Eric, you've been a multiple time guest. Thanks for joining me again. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, bro.
And I've really enjoyed the information that you've put out the last few days through Econologics, your webinars, the downloads, all that kind of stuff. And I figured it'd be great to also, have a face-to-face with you, if you will, on the podcast, so we can just work this thing out and share some valuable information with the owners. But thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no problem. Let's get into it right now. I know a lot of practice owners have a lot of uncertainties happening right now. So anything we can do to make them feel a bit more stable in this unstable times.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of times some guys are more prepared than others financially for an expense like this. It's coming as a shock to all of us. But what are some of the first things we need to do right off the bat as we're addressing this as owners?
Yeah. Well, I think when the first thing you have to do is you have to look at what the condition is that your business is in, your personal finances are in. And I think the best word is confusion, uncertainty. That is the condition. And the way that you handle a confusion is that you have to get rid of all the uncertainties that you have. What I hear mostly when I'm talking with practice owners is that, I don't know when I'm going to be open. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know how this is going to affect the longevity of my practice. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many of those I don't knows that that's what causes the fear and the anxiety and all the things that you don't want. Because one thing I do know about the condition of confusion, that it breeds bad decision making.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. So my advice is let's just clear up some of the uncertainties. Get everything out of your head, get it on a piece of paper, and just try to figure out okay, I just need one piece of certainty that I can establish. I know how much I have in my bank accounts. Okay, great. I know how much accounts receivable I have coming. Okay, great. I know these are my open credit lines. Okay, great. So, you're just trying to get some stability so that you can navigate without making bad or rash decisions in this time frame.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not uncertainty, it's fear, which
Yes.
also can lead to bad decision making. And I agree with you. Once you can get your hands on some real data and information that is true, that really helps you then make the decision. And you've got to start making decisions. You can't wait for the next update. You can't wait for the next uh, press briefing, or you got to start making some of these sure financial decisions based on the true data that you have, to start overcoming the uncertainty and fear and start developing a plan, not only for the now, but for the future as well. Right.
Yeah, and another point to that too, because there's information's coming out so fast, just like to your point, I think it's a mistake to start trying to look like 4 months in the future or 6 months in the future. I think that's just going to mess with your head when you do that. I think you really have to just, okay, what do I have in front of me this week, right? And plan out your week that way.
Yeah.
And then next week comes, okay, here's my battle plan for this week. And because there's always going to be new information that's coming, and it would just be better to navigate that way. Otherwise, right now your attitude and your emotional tone level is really, really key.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in action, and if you're okay, we're going to do this, then you'll be imaginative, you can be creative. But if you're in fear, anxiety, and all those kind of negative things that kind of creep up, that doesn't spark creativity, and you need to be creative right now.
Yeah.
I mean, now more than ever, you really need to be creative.
I love that insight, man. Keep your horizon to 1 to 3 weeks ahead of you, and then deal with it when you get there. Is it a time? I don't want to get too off topic because I want to talk immediately about what people need to do right today and in the next week. But is it a time to, after you've handled some of those things, think about maybe how I want to, how this company to look in the future, if there's some things I want to change. Do you allow time for that?
Well, I think so. I think you're doing both. Look, there's you study history. No great movement or organization ever made strides when everything was hunky dory and rich and prosperous.
Mm,
So you can really make some big strides as an organization when times are distressed like this,
yeah, there's
and
opportunity.
huge. And what you would need to do would be the exact opposite of what, of course, everybody is telling you to do, which is contract, close down, don't see anybody, and don't promote. And I think those are the things that if you can do the exact opposite of that in some form,
Hmm.
then you can really become a beacon to your community and your patients and be like, wow, these guys were willing to like provide good data and information and
Hmm.
provide a safe place where we can still get help. Because make no mistake, the help that you provide is very, very much needed
Hmm.
in terms of what physical therapy can do for human body.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Even last week, as people were considering shutting down, the information that I provide to my clients was like, don't stop promoting. Your message might change, and probably should, but don't make your promotion and marketing budget one of the last things that you cut. Because you still want to get the
Yes,
message out. You still want to
absolutely.
keep in touch with your patients and your physicians and all your marketing vendors. You, like I said, change the message if you need to. Take an opportunity, if you have some extra time, take an opportunity to redesign and rebrand a little bit or something like
Yep.
that. But don't stop promoting and marketing. Just find another way to do it.
Yeah, you don't, you want to make sure that you're over communicating right now.
Yeah.
You're not under communicating, you're over communicating. Like, I'm having all my advisors, myself, I'm calling everybody, like
Hmm.
every client that I have, because I want to make sure, number one, how they're doing, and that they know that, we're trying to figure out ways that they can navigate this situation. It's
Hmm.
not easy for anybody.
Yeah.
But right now, I think more than ever, you can really establish a lot of goodwill with your
Hmm.
people
For sure.
and enhance that by doing that.
And another thing that came up in a mastermind group last week was, we've taken so much, if you, taken from physicians, if you will. We get referrals so much from physicians. How many physicians are getting calls of, "Hey, what do you guys need? What can we do for you? Can we
Wow.
just, yeah, can we come over and, yeah, if you have a massage therapist on board, or can hire a massage therapist to go over and maybe one-on-one, not in group, but provide massages to an overworked staff or something like that. What can you do for those physician groups who are having to stop all elective surgeries altogether? What are they doing, and how can you help in that situation?
I
um,
think I think that's a great idea. I'm seeing right now a lot of people that are giving stuff away,
yeah.
and I think that you have to do that in this time.
Hmm.
You can't say, and we look at profits, of course, we look at revenue, that's important, but at this point in time, it's like you got to be a beacon of help.
Yeah.
And that means that maybe I'm giving a course away, or I'm giving something away, a month off, whatever it would be. It's like, we want to help you.
Yeah.
And I think you have to do that right now.
Well, when someone comes to you now, and as you're doing these interviews on podcasts and what's the first step now to handle things financially?
Well, from a business point of view, look, the number one responsibility of the owner is to make sure that the organization can stay there.
Yeah.
That's the number one. And what does that mean? Well, it means that financially speaking, that you have to make probably some of the toughest decisions you've ever made in your life, because likely a lot of practice owners have never been in a situation where you had to furlough and lay off 50%, 60%, 80% of your staff.
Sure.
And but you can't carry, if you don't, unless you have 6 months of business reserves, there's no way you can carry
Yeah.
that kind of payroll when
Hmm.
there's no patient visits coming in. So you have to act fast on that one, though. You can't wait, because, as patient visits are dropping percentage wise, 70, 60, they're dropping really, really fast because people are scared, you
Yeah.
know, and you can't carry that kind of payroll if you don't have the patients coming in. So you
Yeah.
really have to act fast, number one, on doing that,
Hmm.
which again, it's a tough thing to do, but you got to make sure that you preserve the organization. Work on a skeleton crew. See just enough, keep your key people, keep your producers, keep the people that really are going to help you fight your way out of this one. Obviously keep your billing people, because that's your money lines right there, right?
Yeah.
And you need to keep those, keep some really good executives and some key producers that you need. But go down to a skeleton crew and just try to produce the basic of what you need, just so that you can keep the organization there. And, I don't know how many patient visits that is. I guess each practice would be different, but like, what is like the minimum amount of patients that we have to have come in here so that we can keep the organization flowing, at least in that respect?
Yeah. Have you recommended that the owners get in touch with their CPAs and kind of rework their break-even number? Like,
Yes.
what are my minimum expenses? I mean, it's probably a good exercise for owners who don't have a lot of accounting knowledge and aren't good with QuickBooks and whatnot, but sit down with the CPA and say, hey, what is my bare minimum? Walk me through it. What are my bare minimum expenses? What does my salary need to be? And if I'm open, how many visits do I need to squeak out in order to break even and stay afloat?
That's part of the getting rid of the confusion, right? Because you would need to do something like that. I think that is one of the smartest things you can do. Is to, number one, it's going to put your attention on your money. You definitely want, in this time, you need to stay connected, as far as like who do you have on your Rolodex of who I'm talking to right now. Obviously you're talking to colleagues a lot, and your associations, because I think that good data, like the podcast that you're doing, there's good data coming out of this. You go to the news media, you go anywhere else, I think, I'm not really certain that that's necessarily good data, but I think the associations and your colleagues, there's good data coming from there. Definitely your bookkeeper and your accountant, because they're going to know your income and your expenses, and they'll help you rework that make break number. Certainly you want to get in touch with your banker, because you may need to look at credit lines, see what you have available, see if there's, different ways that you can access credit that maybe you didn't know about that you could. And then of course, your financial advisors, if you have, certain types of investments that you may not even realize have some liquidity features to them that you can access. And, they've made some changes right now with the stimulus bill that you can access qualified plans for a period of time if you need it. So, right now is the time to like really stay in communication with your financial team. And of course on your billing, in your billing department, because right now, I mean, what do you have coming in? You got whatever's in your business checking account right now. You have whatever accounts receivable that you're going to have coming in. So you should definitely know that. And whatever your business credit lines would be. Like let's get some certainty on what that is, so I know what I'm going to have to do. Because right now your reserves and your credit lines, man, that is like gold. That is gold.
Because I could see, for me, as you're talking through that, I can see, okay, if I knew I have this much cash available to me, even if it's in a line of credit and my accounts receivable and my checking account, and then I know what my bare minimum expense level is, I know how many weeks or months I can ride this out, right? And that's where I get some certainty, and that's where I start getting more confident and less fearful, because I think people might actually have more than what they think they have. They might just be looking at their bank account and thinking, oh, this is only going to get me through 2 weeks. Whereas if they've done some proper planning and gotten a line of credit ahead of time, they have access to that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did I hear you just say that people could tap into IRAs possibly?
So the stimulus bill just came out, and there were some provisions in there that if you were affected, I mean, they keep it so general, like if you were affected by the coronavirus negatively in some way, shape, or form, that I think you can get access to like $100,000 of your qualified plans. Without now, of course, everyone's accounts just got hit 40%, so you're taking money out. I'm
you don't want to sell low.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure that's a smart thing to do right now. And then of course they have all the relief loans and grants that are coming out right now. And I'm going to touch on that, just because my advice is that the devils are in the details on that. Be very careful before you sign your name to something, because when credit and free money is free, right, is made accessible, it's usually it usually has like, titanium strings that attach to it, right? So
Yeah.
I don't want people to just start getting loans and grants and money and keep people because you think that you're going to get this money, or you may be able to hit the stipulations that they're going to have of requirements before they forgive it. And
Yeah.
I would really caution people to not do that. Like we said, get your mini make break done, know what your expenses are, try to see enough patients just to ride this wave through. And that way you don't come out the other end with $200,000 of debt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which is, and with what you already have in debt. That's the
Yeah.
problem that we're trying to solve. I don't want that for people.
Yeah, I gotcha. What would you recommend? What have you heard about people putting in claims with their general business liability, uh, insurance policies, or anything like that? Have you heard anything on that end, whether that's going to work out in people's favor?
Unfortunately, I have. And look, insurance companies aren't dumb. And there was, if you remember the SARS, I think it was the SARS virus that hit.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot how many years ago that was.
Yeah.
Insurance companies went back and kind of reworked that business interruption policy so that this kind of thing wouldn't necessarily qualify for
Oh,
business interruption
okay.
insurance. So likely,
Yeah.
now that doesn't mean that if you did have it, you shouldn't take it to, file a claim. I mean, you
File a
should do that
claim.
anyway, because who
Sure.
knows, right? Who knows? But from what I'm hearing right now, most people that have that type of insurance, this necessarily wouldn't qualify because that they're saying that there has to be actual property damage for something like
Mm.
that to occur. And that's, I don't know,
Okay.
that's hard to quantify. So
Well,
I wish there was better news on that,
yeah.
but because I don't think there is.
I like your advice though about being wary of the SBA loans and grants that are out there, because you can just imagine that you're working with the government, and the time and effort that it's going to take for this to actually happen and to actually get those funds. I
Yep.
don't know. I can't believe that it's going to be very quick and in a timely manner.
You don't have time right now to wait. You
Yeah.
have to act. You have to act fast. The speed in which you make decisions right now, and doing it with good data, which is again why you want to get out of this uncertainty, is
Mm-hmm.
really, really paramount. And so trying to carry all this expense on your back, because it's just gonna force you to potentially have to dip into your own personal reserves.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even have that.
Yeah.
So it's something I would be very much wary against doing something like that.
Yeah. Well, I love what you shared so far. So number one, get some true data, put some money together, or figure out where you're actually standing financially and what
Yep.
you have access to financially. Stay in communication with all the important people. That includes fellow professionals, peers. Well, I don't know if you can trust Facebook groups, because you could get a lot of fear out of those. You pick and choose the
Yeah,
right
I guess
ones.
depending on who you're connected to, right?
Right. But stay in close touch with your vendors. Don't give up
Yes.
the promotions, and make fast
No.
decisions. I love
Yeah,
it.
make fast decisions. And then I think there was one more point I was going to make, which I forgot. It'll
That's all
come
right.
back to me though.
That's
Yeah.
all right. But keep your key.
Oh, I know. Make sure you communicate too with like because a lot of people have loans
Mhm.
and leases and such. So
Yeah.
get in communication with them. I'm sure you can get some relief, deferral payments or something like that. Don't be afraid to call them up. Look, everyone's kind of going through the same thing right now. Most of them are going to be very open to it and say, hey, look, I may need a 3-month deferral or a
Yeah.
2-month deferral, and let's work together on this. But if
Yeah.
you don't call them, then that's where you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, look at any of your expenses and feel free to call them. And I say this because number one, I know that you can, they're looking at deferring or just not or forgiving some of the
Forgive me.
student loan payments at this time, and
Yeah.
deferring interest and whatnot. But as a landlord, my mindset and the other landlords I'm talking to is I'm still going to send out the invoice until you call me. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but if they do call me, I don't want to lose your business. Right.
No.
And I don't want you to go under. I'm willing, there's a couple of things I'm willing to do. If you want to make, if you want to decrease your rent payment and then spread that out over the next 12 months, that's fine. If you want to take this month's rent payment and add it to the end of the lease agreement, that's fine. If you want to draw down from your security deposit that you already put in and pay that back over time, I'm open to all of those things. And if you're coming up on a renegotiation of a lease, now's the time to do that renegotiation and see if you can
No
get some of
doubt.
those free months, right? So
Yeah.
if your lease is coming due here in the next year, now's the time to call your landlord and say, hey, okay, here's my situation. I need some help. I need some relief. Let's start negotiating now so I can get some immediate relief, and I will pay you back if you help me through this.
Yeah. It's amazing what'll happen if you just get in community, because nobody wants to lose tenants.
No,
Right. And, of course, as a landlord, I mean, you care about, especially if you have businesses in your building. I mean, you care what happens to them, I mean, you don't
right,
want to see them, like, that's your lifeblood too, as a
right.
landlord. So you're going to be
Yeah,
open to like any creative methods as way. But just to your point, if no one calls you, you're just like, hey man, rent's due. I
yeah,
need it.
yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah. And outside of salary and payroll, some of your bigger expenses are going to be exactly that. It's going to be rent,
Yeah.
it's going to be insurance payments, debt payments, that kind of stuff. And some of those can be relieved and taken off your plate at this time.
Yep. And then,
Um,
then I think bringing people back, we talked a little bit about this as far as like when this thing recovers,
mhm.
how do you handle that point as well?
Well, before, what can we do now, or what would you recommend owners do as they're looking to the future? So we've got some of this. I've got a financial plan in place.
Yep.
As they're looking to the future, my idea, just to throw it in there, is that start reading some books that you hadn't read before about business organization.
Mm,
Getting your mindset right. I'm a big proponent of Think and Grow Rich. Those first four
yep.
chapters of just getting your mind straight and getting an ideal scene in mind. So if you've been working in a situation that you haven't truly enjoyed for the past years, decades, if you will, maybe start creating maybe an ideal scene of what is this going to look like when I do revamp, and how can I make it look the way I want to look in the situation I want to see.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you're getting an opportunity to reset this whole thing,
Totally, man. Take advantage of this pause button.
and right now it should be, okay, what are the if I had to do this all over again, what would I do differently?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right.
And I think right now you're going to have that opportunity, especially if you've had to let people go.
Hmm.
You're going to have this opportunity now to do good money management
Yeah.
if you didn't do that in the past.
Hmm.
Right now, you see kind of the necessity of having organizational reserves and profit,
Yes.
and putting that in as an actual expense,
Yep.
and maybe not having the percentages be so out of whack where 80% of all your revenue is going towards staff and benefits. You really have you have an opportunity right here to kind of play the reset button on there,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
and put in some really good business systems that maybe weren't there before, so that you can grow your organization and expand even more than what it was.
Hmm.
And pay attention to that, and really,
Yeah.
really wear your owner and executive hat more than just being a practitioner.
Now that makes me think. I wish we could just like cut into our interview from a few months ago about how you handle things financially as a PT owner, because you're talking to the points that we made in the previous podcast. Is making your
Yeah.
10% profit margin an expense line and coming off of the top, right?
Yep.
And also making sure that you're getting a decent profit. I mean, some of these guys are working on 8 to 10% profit margins, and I'm like, you can do so much better. So now's the time, like as you started getting into this, saying, how are we going to ramp up and be more productive, more profitable, more financially sustainable?
I think you have to do it on a gradient. Absolutely. You have to make sure that as you're bringing people back slowly, that you're not overwhelming the organization with expenses again, because that's what
Yes.
got you into trouble in the first place.
So you don't just open the doors and invite all the employees back in.
I'm sorry, and this is going to be wildly unpopular. I know that, and I'll probably get beat up from some people. But you really, right now, you can't do that, because again, in the reimbursement game, the lag on income is what, a month, maybe two. So you really have to make sure that as you're bringing people on, you work on a skeleton crew, even if they're like working double time
Mm,
seeing patients, right?
pay them overtime if you have to.
Pay them overtime if you have to,
Yep.
but don't bring on all the staff too
No,
quickly.
no.
And that way, as your patient load increases, because it's not going to go from like well, you're doing 500 patients a week and then it goes down to like, 50, it's not going to go right back up to 500 like
Nope.
in a matter of months. I mean, it's
No.
going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you can navigate that. And again, now is a good time is to kind of hit that reset button and say, okay, great. So now we're going to put in 10% for reserves, 5% for, a tax fund, another 5% for, a business reserve account. I'm going to put these things in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That way, as I bring people on, and I'm going to stick to those percentages and I'm not going to deviate from them because I understand how important my profit is right now.
Yeah.
And that's going to do a couple of things. Number one, it's going to put good control of money back in. It's going to allow you to expand the organization, and it's going to make the business more valuable down the line because now you'll actually have a profit margin, which, as you
Yes.
know, is what, when you sell your business, that's largely what it's based upon,
Yeah.
right?
That's the
So
value of your company right there.
that's right. So you have an opportunity right here to really to do that. But if you overwhelm the organization with expenses again, just bring all your staff back right away, then you're just going to be right back in the same boat that you were.
Yeah. And can I make a plea? If any owners are listening out there, if there are people that you didn't like or didn't produce in your company beforehand, take advantage of it now
Yes.
and bring back the people that you're excited to see, not the
Yep.
ones that you're like, oh, we got to bring so-and-so back because we need to fill that hole. No, there's going to be plenty of people out there looking for work. Find the really good ones.
3
Have
million, was it
3
3
million
million people
unemployment
got?
claims, right? So
Yeah.
if you have an amazing employee, one of your skeleton crew that is live and die with you, ask them about their friends and their network and how you can find more and more A players, because they're going to be there. Find your A players, let go of the ones that you weren't excited to bring back to begin with and you're having issues with. Take advantage of this time.
Yeah.
It's a time to not only strategize financially, it's a time to strategize with your human resources as well.
This just became an employer economy. It was an
Yeah.
employee economy because
Was it?
everyone
Oh, that's
was like
right.
demanding higher pay and, time off and benefits and all of that. And it flipped like that right now, where now the business owners are kind of back in control here a little bit, where they can
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
And, again, this isn't like this is not a competition. It's not, me against them. It's really finding out who's part of your team, who wants to be there and who's
Yeah.
just kind of there just to like get a paycheck.
Yes.
And I think this is just to your point, I think that, man, that's really key to
It's
do
a
that.
great opportunity. And if it's important to, like we said at the beginning, this is an opportunity. There are opportunities that abound, financially restructuring, reorganizing your financials, but looking at the structure of your company and the people that are in it, your team members, man, create your dream team. Now's your
Yeah.
time to create the dream team. And if you're sitting on your butt, just kind of waiting this out, then you're going to be behind the curve. You need to
Yep.
start reaching out to people who you might have wanted to reach out to in the past that weren't available. More than likely, they might have been let go at this time. Now's the time to start making those connections again, even if they might be committed to going back to the place they were before. And not a bad time to reach out.
Yeah, really. That's a
Yeah.
good point. You can definitely get rid of the negative people right now
Yeah.
without actually having to get in there and fire them.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, exactly. You've got a reason, man. Take
you got a
advantage.
reason.
That's
That's
right.
good.
Yeah, I love it. I love all the stuff that you talked about. And like I said, you shared a lot of this on webinars. You have
Yeah.
postings on YouTube. You've got a PDF download for people to manage this. I hope they take advantage of the information that you're sharing because it's hugely valuable at this time.
Thanks, man. I mean, we're just, like I said, we're just trying to put good financial data out there. And, if I can, talk a little bit about the financial plan aspect of this thing going forward, like what you're going to do going forward from this,
Yeah.
because you do have an opportunity to do something different.
Hmm.
Like they've always said, like when there's a crisis, when there's blood in the water, there is an opportunity there for
Yeah.
you to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
when you look at the last 12 years, you look at the things that have that people have done with their money and what's happened. They've interest rates in checking and money market accounts have been 0 to 1%. So nobody saved any money because there was no purpose to save money.
Yeah.
They made debt very, very accessible. very easy to get. Hey, buy this big house. Hey, buy this car. Hey, you can afford the payment. That's all you need. They made the tax code really, really confusing, ambiguous for practice owners because, it's 4 million words. I mean, how can you confront that? And your accountants don't really help you as well.
Sure.
And then, of course, they made it seem like the stock market was the only place that you could put your money to earn any kind of return against the inflation rate. And that we call that the default plan. And if you didn't have your own financial plan, that was your default plan right there. And it really worked well because look at the situation for most business owners right now. They don't have much liquidity. They have loads of debt. They overpay in their taxes, and likely all their 401ks and IRAs were in the stock market where they just took a 30-40% hit. So not only did your business value basically evaporate overnight, but all of your personal reserves at the same time just went down 30 to 40% in value. There has got to be a better way to handle your finances than that. And that's why I'm like, get a plan that does the exact opposite of that. It's totally fine having $100,000 sitting in a checking account earning zero, as long as you have some liquidity there.
That's right.
It's totally fine to have some money in protected assets that may not make huge returns, but at least is going to be there at some point in time. And it's totally fine to take advantage of the tax code and save yourself $20,000 to $40,000 in taxes a year just by being proactive and looking at it. And like now is the time to get a plan that really does that.
And you're the man that can help us.
Hell yes, I'm the man.
If people want to get in touch with you, where do they go?
Yeah, so they can just go to econologicsfinancialadvisors.com. They can hook me up on LinkedIn, Eric Miller on LinkedIn.
Cool.
And Facebook, of course. They can go to our page, and I'll send a link. If we can send a link to for this podcast as well. Yeah. We do have that financial disaster guide that we can share with them. And for your listeners too, if they want like I'll extend that offer too. If they want like a 15 to 30 minute appointment or consultation, then I'll certainly extend that offer. Please take advantage of it. Any way we can help, even if it's just, helping you navigate through this time right now, we'll be willing to do that just to talk with you for 15 to 30 minutes, no strings attached.
Yeah, it would help people for sure. Give them some certainty at least, right? And I'm sure you'll give them a battle plan so that they can go off and start working it so they can go from a place of surety and a little bit of faith.
Yeah, something that they can help with. Awesome. And then, of course, our YouTube channel, Econologicsfinancialadvisors.com. They can go on our YouTube channel and subscribe. That'd be cool.
Awesome. Cool, man. Hey, thanks for your time, as always. And short notice, it's awesome to have your information, your knowledge, and wisdom. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad it helped. And for those owners, again, that I think are having, kind of the feeling like their businesses, because I think some of your guys are actually shut down completely right now, right? I've been telling a lot of people this, is that, look, they can try to shut you down. They can try to, bankrupt you. They can try to make it so that your business is basically non-existent there, but they can't take away the ability for you to create it again.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key point for those guys that are shut down. That you only really lose something if you don't think that you can actually create it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's going to take some work, but do you know how to do it? You've done it before. If you're an entrepreneur, you've been through crises. So this isn't the first time.
Nope.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Have a great day.
You too.